December 7, 1941, began like any other day in Hawaii. The sun slowly rose over the Pacific Ocean. Sailors aboard American battleships prepared for their daily routines. It was a Sunday, and many believed it would be a quiet day. But destiny had different plans. On one ship, an African-American mess attendant named Dory Miller was already at work. He served breakfast to Navy officers. He collected their laundry afterward. To him, it was just another duty-filled morning. He had no idea his life would change forever within hours. At the harbor, a civilian tour operator guided visitors around. Suddenly, he heard an alarm siren. At first, he thought it was a routine drill. But then he looked up. The sky was filled with Japanese bombers. Hundreds of planes darkened the horizon. Engines roared. Bombs whistled. The calm morning shattered. In an instant, Pearl Harbor became a battlefield. Japanese aircraft swooped down in waves. They released bombs with deadly precision. Battleships and aircraft became targets. Explosions tore through the base. Flames rose high into the sky. It felt like the end of the world. But why did Japan dare to strike America? Why risk awakening such a powerful enemy? To answer that, we must go back. The road to Pearl Harbor. By the late 1930s, the world was already at war. Germany, Italy, and Japan formed the Axis powers. Britain, France, and later the Soviet Union stood against them. The United States, however, tried to remain neutral. The horrors of World War I were still fresh. Americans did not want another foreign war. President Roosevelt avoided direct involvement. But neutrality was not the same as silence. America quietly supported allies. It sent weapons and supplies to Britain. It also aided China. At the same time, Japan expanded rapidly in Asia. It had conquered Korea. It controlled Taiwan. It seized large parts of China. But Japan wanted more. It wanted the oil and resources of Southeast Asia. Malaysia was rich in rubber. Indonesia had oil. The Philippines held strategic value. But these lands were colonies of Western powers. To capture them, Japan had to challenge America and Europe. In July 1941, America struck back with an oil embargo. This was a devastating blow to Japan. Japan relied on America for 80% of its oil. Without oil, its army and navy would collapse. America gave Japan a choice. Withdraw from China, or lose oil forever. For Japan, this was impossible. Surrendering China meant humiliation. It meant weakness in front of Germany and the world. So Japan chose another path. It decided to strike first. It planned a surprise attack. Its target was Pearl Harbor. Preparing for the attack, Japan assembled a massive fleet. It had 6 aircraft carriers. It had 2 battleships. It had 30 destroyers. It had 39 submarines. It carried over 400 aircraft. The fleet sailed across the Pacific in silence. No wireless signals were sent. The mission was top secret. By December, they were only 370 kilometers from Hawaii. From there, planes would launch. Meanwhile, Pearl Harbor seemed unprepared. It had 8 battleships. It had 59 anti-aircraft guns. It had dozens of planes. But no one believed an attack would come. Most thought war would start in the Philippines. Pearl Harbor felt safe. The attack on Pearl Harbor at 7:55 a.m., the attack began. The first wave of 183 Japanese planes struck. Bombs fell on the USS Arizona. A massive explosion tore the ship apart. Over 1,000 men died instantly. The USS Oklahoma capsized. Sailors were trapped inside. Torpedoes ripped into other ships. For 45 minutes, destruction reigned. Then came silence. Survivors thought it was over. But 10 minutes later, the second wave arrived. Another 167 planes attacked. Bullets, bombs, and fire consumed the harbor. By the end, Pearl Harbor was devastated. 8 battleships were sunk or damaged. 20 vessels lay destroyed. Over 300 aircraft were lost. More than 2,400 Americans were dead. The heroism of Dory Miller amid this chaos, one man stood tall. Dory Miller, the mess attendant, showed courage. When his ship, the USS West Virginia, was hit, he acted fast. He carried the wounded captain to safety. Then he did something remarkable. He manned an anti-aircraft gun. He had no training. Yet he fired at enemy planes with determination. He may have downed one or more aircraft. His bravery inspired all who saw him. For his actions, he received the Navy Cross. He became the first African American to earn this honor. His courage became a symbol of hope. America enters the war the next day, President Roosevelt spoke. He declared December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States declared war on Japan. Soon after, Germany and Italy declared war on America. The neutral giant had awakened. World War II would never be the same again. The Pacific War for 4 long years, America and Japan clashed. Battles raged across the Pacific. At Midway, the tide turned in America's favor. At Guadalcanal, fierce fighting drained both sides. At Iwo Jima, Marines raised the flag on Mount Suribachi. At Okinawa, the cost was unbearably high. Japan fought with desperate resistance. Kamikaze pilots crashed planes into ships. Suicide attacks destroyed many lives. But America pressed forward. It gained island after island. By 1945, Japan was cornered. Yet it refused to surrender. The atomic decision American leaders faced a dilemma. Invading Japan could cost millions of lives. The Japanese army was prepared to fight to the last man. The people were ready to die for their emperor. President Truman made a fateful choice. He would use a new weapon. It was called the atomic bomb. Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, a B-29 bomber named Enola Gay took off. At 8:15 a.m., it dropped a bomb called Little Boy. 43 seconds later, Hiroshima vanished in fire. A blinding flash lit the sky. A mushroom cloud rose high. The temperature reached 5,000 degrees Celsius. Buildings melted into ash. Shadows of people burned onto walls. 80,000 died instantly. Thousands more suffered burns and radiation. Nagasaki 3 days later, another strike came. On August 9, a second bomb was dropped. This one was called Fat Man. It exploded over Nagasaki. Entire neighborhoods disappeared. 40,000 people died at once. More would die from injuries and sickness. Japan surrenders. The devastation was unbearable. Emperor Hirohito finally spoke. On August 15, 1945, he addressed his nation. He announced Japan's surrender. For the first time, the Japanese people heard his voice. World War II had ended. Legacy: the attack on Pearl Harbor changed history. It pulled America into the war. It showed that isolation was impossible. It proved that courage exists in unexpected places. Dory Miller's heroism is still remembered. The atomic bombings ended the war. But they also began a new age. The nuclear age. An age of fear and power. An age that continues to shape our world today. From Pearl Harbor to Hiroshima, the story is one of tragedy and courage. It is a reminder of war's cost. It is a lesson never to be forgotten.